Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Connie? Okay, Connie moves. All in favor? Carried. Minutes from February 14th. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none. Josh is moving those. All in favor? Carried. And Lisa, your report, please.
Okay, so I had a meeting with the Central Rabies Committee on February 17th, and they were discussing the rabies surveillance program again. So they've decided that the same system will remain in place to deal with testing skunks for rabies in 2022. It seemed like most of the municipalities involved with that in the past were still in favor and found value in that program, so they're just going to continue with that. The staff here, we've joined in the Canadian Council of Invasive Species webinar series during the National Invasive Species Awareness Week. So there was several sessions throughout the week. So the ones that we attended were interesting. We have inquired about having weed inspection software installed on 3 to 5 more of our tablets, our existing tablets. There's a few changes coming to our programs this year, so we kind of anticipate that we might need a few more weed inspectors out there just checking things out. So we've got the tablets anyway with like a system that we can map and, all the spraying and stuff. So it's a little different program for weed inspections to map those. So we're just kind of looking into that. There's been an email passed back and forth with Alberta Environment and Parks requesting grant funding to use towards the biocontrol releases on bed and shore again this year. There'll be more likely on the South Saskatchewan River, and we'll maybe try some on Ross Creek this year as well. In the past, we've received $8,000 from them, and we would like leafy spurge beetles again, and it sounds like this year they're going to offer gull wasps for Russian knapweed, so hopefully we can get a couple of those and give them a whirl, and those would go on the Ross Creek. There's a huge patch of knapweed there, so that's kind of the plan at this point. So herbicide control can also be an option through this grant on vacant Crown land. So we received files from Alberta Environment and Parks recently with those kind of just showing the vacant Crown land in Cypress County, and there's not much. Like it's just tiny little parcels here and there, and so I couldn't. They needed an invoice for herbicide by tomorrow, so it just wouldn't work for this year, but it's good to keep in mind for another time. So now that we have those maps, we can maybe inspect those parcels this year just to kind of get an idea of what's out there for weeds, if any. So yeah, and then we would have to know if they would be accessible, because some of those parcels would be along bed and shore kind of areas, rivers and creeks and stuff. So if there was weeds there, maybe we couldn't spray anyway. It's either too close to bed and shore, or it's cliffs or something that you can't get to. So for summer jobs, there's been an ad posted now for many jobs at the county, but we're probably looking at 2 to 3 people this year. We're going to have 6 returning staff from last year, and 1 still kind of on the fence. He hasn't decided yet if he'll be coming back to Medicine Hat area. So just kind of with that, we'll hire 2 to 3 more likely here. So weed identification then would be an asset for some of those, if we're looking at more inspections. So and I've spoke to a contact person at the base there. They're hopeful to have a program in place, and they're planning on mapping they're problematic areas, so in that southwest corner. And then he's very willing and, wanting to kind of work with us going forward. So it's encouraging just from the conversation that I've had initially. So we'll see how that goes on their end, how far they get with that and then what comes of it, their mapping. So that's about it.
Okay, any questions for Lisa?
Yeah. Yeah, he was very approachable, good, conversation with him and stuff, and it's a name that I haven't heard before, so I don't know if he's been there a while or not, but sound like, Mike Locke. So, yeah,
Use your mic.
We have to spray a whole quarter section. We have to get an outfit in from Brooks for the baby's breath. We had to spray a whole quarter. What's that?
and
That's where it's coming
what's-
from, is the
yeah.
base. You're coming right across the fence.
Yeah, so they've had a program in the past where they have dealt or tried to deal with their baby's breath and that, but last year there was nothing, I don't think, and just changing staff and that kind of thing there too, so hopefully there'll be something going forward, but.
Rain will help too, because drought weeds really like drought, they seem to grow better.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, is there a seed plant report, Shane? No meeting? Okay, agri-environmental?
We have another 2 webinars coming up in the spring here. On March 23rd, we have a tree care webinar, and we have about 5 people already signed up for that. But we've just been finding too, we get a lot of last minute registrations just because people don't always know what they're doing or can't anticipate what's going on that day specifically. So we do get a lot of last minute. So I know right now it doesn't seem like a lot of people, but I know as the weeks come, we'll get a couple more, for sure get more. And then we have a green acreages workshop on April 7th. Because that one's through a third party, I've reached out and asked if we have any registrations, and I just haven't heard back yet, just because they handle all of our registrations. And then the last 2 webinars, that grazing management, we had 22 total participants, which we had a couple that couldn't make it, so we were able to send out the recording. So it would have been more if more people had the time to go to that. And then Septic Sense, we had 16 total participants there. And then spring rat inspections, we're probably going to get going on that next week, and we'll anticipate inspecting about 220 sites for Norway rats.
Go ahead, Blaine.
I just want to make a comment. Thought you guys did a really good job with the grazing one. I didn't get a chance to get on the septic one. I was on the grazing one. The question I guess I have is, do we do anything for any of the guys that give the talk or whatever? Like, do they get anything? Or I thought the local guys did. They all did, but they did a really good job.
They did a very good
Like
job.
Blaine's, I really,
Yeah.
didn't really help me a lot because it was about irrigation, but he did a fantastic job. Like, it was really good.
Yeah, so last year, there was a motion to pay those speakers $150. So that's what we did this year too. I just, we decided that would be fair again, so we did do that, and, yeah.
I'm sure that they
Hopefully
got
that's okay.
something.
You gotta pay them something for their time.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Connie.
So, yeah, the septic one was lots and lots of information and overload. Did we pay him?
Yes, they do. The Septic Sense does charge for their time.
Okay.
So they have a speaker fee, and then we pay for the homeowner packages as well.
Okay, okay. And, what was the other thing? It'll come to me later.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do you remember how many people were on last year's webinar that we had? Like, are the numbers similar?
Yeah, I don't have the exact number, but I think we had 27 registered for that one, and I think we had about the same attendance, similar, within the 20 to 30 range.
It's good.
So I just thought I would bring this back again, because it's been brought up in the past, and it was kind of decided that we would maybe have something to do with the Living Lab initiative. I haven't heard anything from Ken Coles about this at all. I don't know if Josh or Dustin has, if there's been any contact at all. Okay. So I had, and this is quite a while ago now, but I had contacted Jamie at Farming Smarter and just inquiring about the conferences and stuff like that, because we've had $5,000 in our budget for Farming Smarter conferences. So she indicated that there was no, they had kind of discontinued anything in Cypress County. And the last one we were at, though, was in 2020, right as COVID was, shutting things down. So there's always been a bit of confusion with that, because I believe that their big 2-day one used to be alternated between here and Lethbridge. Okay. And then there was also the Cypress Conference, which was just a 1-day thing that was supposed to happen every 2 years. So for some reason, and this has gone on for several years, that there's been confusion about those two conferences. So anyway, according to her now, there is nothing, in the way of us having a conference here. So that money is still in the budget. So I'm just, relaying that basically, that the money is still there. If there's interest in a financial contribution to this initiative, we do have that money, and if not, that's great too, and we can wait for more information, that's maybe gonna come out. There must be something else coming on this, because I've never seen a plan. Like, I don't know if the application has been approved or anything like that. The last thing was that they were looking for letters of support from those who haven't, made a contribution of anything. So I just wanted to bring it back and just kind of share that information, so.
Go ahead, Josh.
I think we should move it or accept it for information. I think we should stop chasing them
Okay,
because they're not. I think we just leave it. If they come to us, they come to us. But
yeah.
I'm tired of chasing them, and we're not getting any response out of them. So
No.
obviously, they're not interested in our funding.
And they had kind of made that clear at the beginning that, they were just reaching out because we had partnerships with them in the past, and there was no real ask of anything. So yeah, you're right about that. So,
They
okay.
seem to do what they want to do, and maybe we can use that money for some other education locally other than
Yeah.
chasing them all the time.
I would tend to agree. Go ahead, Connie.
They do have a big webinar, I think, with lots of pesticide credits.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's something we should put in the newsletter. Somebody wants credits.
Yeah, we could share that or
Yeah.
put it in.
Yeah, on the website. So,
Okay.
Okay, any other comments? Josh moves to accept it for information. All in favor? Carried. Okay, Milk River Watershed Council sponsorship.
Okay, so there was an ask here too from the Milk River Watershed about sponsoring their fundraiser again this year. $500 is what we've given in the past, and that's what they've asked for this time as well.
And we have budget money for that?
Yes.
Yep. Move it.
I thought Josh would, because he's the one that did it last time, so.
Okay, Josh is moving it.
Oh, Josh.
Josh is moving to donate $500 to the Milk River Watershed Council. $50, Shane says. Sure.
Are
Okay.
you the member for the Milk River
Yeah.
watershed? Okay, just curious.
Not that I'm aware of. They had one in February, and I didn't know about it till 2 days after it, so couldn't really attend that. So I can lie. They have one coming up here. I got to look when it was. I can't remember. But okay, all in favor? Carried. Dutch elm disease.
So, Stop Dead has commissioned Ken Fry, Dr. Ken Fry of Old College to review the provincial Dutch elm disease prevention program, specifically the elm bark beetle, because that's the vector of the Dutch elm disease. So based on his feedback, they have outlined kind of some key points and takeaways there. So conducting visual health surveys is the most reliable method to assess the incidence and extent of Dutch elm disease within an urban forest. Annual surveys of all tree inventory are recommended. Number two, although visual surveys are the best tool for detecting DED, monitoring the beetles provides valuable data and information and should be continued with within the province to some capacity. Public education is a key to both prevention and detection of Dutch elm disease. Key components of educational campaigns include increasing awareness of prohibition of firewood movement and recognizing signs and symptoms of DED. And most importantly, all municipalities and counties need to appoint and train inspectors and officers to enforce the statutes listed in the Dutch elm disease prevention control measures under the Alberta Pest Act there. So, like we've always put up traps for them. They're just sticky traps. There's 7 of them, and they go in Irvin, Walsh, Dunmore, or else Suffield, and 1-4 and along the border there. So just trying to, see if there's bugs coming in on vehicles entering the province is what it is. So there's all kinds of municipalities that do that throughout the province just to try and keep the bugs out. So, and they do find some. There's a very tiny spreadsheet there that you can probably hardly read, but they do detect those bugs. Those sticky traps go to Ken Fry, and he's the one who looks and analyzes those. So,
Out of elk quarter, that all them trees, there's only one elm.
I know. So they also do that inventory as well, and so that's just something that they're kind of asking for now. Like if there was a survey, and if municipalities are interested in helping out with a visual inspection, for us, we might be able to do that, and just a little bit of identification training on what an elm tree is and that sort of thing is all. But, I had just kind of indicated that we might be able to, but we have other priorities, certainly. So I haven't heard anything further if, they've decided to do that or however they want. But it sounds like they'll still send the sticky traps and we'll put those up again. So.
How do they put a value on this? Like Medicine Hat, they say there's 9,000 elms in 2017 worth $39 million.
Yeah. There's, what is it called? Like, tree assessments, I guess. Like there's, I think, a whole course that you can take on assessing trees. So, if you go to a garden center and buy a little 2-year tree, it's going to be $100. So they have mathematical ways of figuring all that out now. Of, the value of a 30-year-old tree. I don't know what it is, but
crazy.
yeah.
All the carbon it fixes?
No, it's,
Yeah.
if you look, like Wildwood, there they got one tree, value of 549, but the one up in Elkhart is worth 4,000.
Yeah.
Doesn't
And the
make
ones in
sense.
Medicine Hat are worth 4,000. Weird.
So
Anyway,
just
it's just a
older
question.
trees, right? It's an older tree then, yeah. And that's the thing, yeah, like we would never inspect yards or, you know, how could we ever get to that? But if it's just a few here and there in our hamlets, then maybe, but. So anyway, that's just kind of for information, but
There's $12 million worth of elm trees in Cypress County. You could fix your revenue problem at the county if you could sell them.
We can build a seed plant. Yeah, I have a comment. So, Dr. Ken Fry, I mean, that would be a good webinar on insects. He's really a good speaker. Actually, to have him, if we ever did a seminar, like a conference, to have him come out.
yeah, that's a good idea, actually.
There's another one I've known for like 40 years. Worked with his wife at Hole's Greenhouses
Oh, really?
in the 80s. Yeah. Yeah, when I got back from backpacking.
You're doing a really good job at dating yourself.
Well, when you turn 60, that's what happens. Everything happened 40 years ago. No, last month.
Okay, so Blaine moved for information, all in favor? Carried. Okay, resolution response from the Minister of Education, Connie.
Sorry, I gotta find it here.
Well, I can't say I would have expected anything more than that.
No.
It is good that he gave us a site to go and make comments, but yeah, it was kind of like a lot of blah, 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 blah. But, I mean, they did respond quite rapidly, and I think going to the schools individually on that website, I think I'll do that. I say, you know, listen, we're supposed to, like the classroom agriculture program, I don't know, it's with Ag for Life, but I said I'd be the coordinator again for Region 1 or Zone 1, but he gave me one school to do, which is Enchant. And so I don't know what's happening if Don George is just assigning all the schools now. There's no booklets or anything. And then when I approached Enchant, they haven't called back, so I don't know if they're having visitors into the schools yet or not. But yeah, I mean, it's nice they responded right away. I guess I didn't really expect much from them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is more than I expected.
Yeah, yeah. I was surprised that there was a response that quick as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They knew they were dealing with Connie.
So no comments that we need to pass along, we're okay with?
Except in principle, I guess.
Okay, so Connie's moving to receive this for information.
Yes, I am.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. Okay, ASB report to council.
Okay, so this is gonna be the report coming to council in the next week or bit here. Okay, so an overview. So this is the review for 2021. So it's everything that happened last year here for us. So throughout the province, agricultural service boards are responsible for administering and enforcing the Agricultural Service Board Act, the Agricultural Pest Act, and the Soil Conservation Act, and the Weed Control Act. Cypress County's ASB also strives to provide the ratepayers of this county with proactive agricultural and environmental services and programs not generally available anywhere else. As part of the ASB grant application process, the ASB must develop a 5-year strategic business plan outlining their objectives and goals for the upcoming years. The strategic business plan provides staff with a document to establish priorities and to assist in the evaluation of programs and services. So that's that plan for Blaine, if you remember, that we went through before Christmas. Was it before Christmas, I think? Just, it was page after page, just kind of with our goals and what we were gonna do in the year kind of thing, so. So grants, I put this in this year. The ASB grant agreement includes 3 portions for us. So the legislative activities, we get $123,907. Resource management, so environmental kind of activities is $20,000, and the rat and rabies control program is $13,000. Alberta Environment and Parks, we have received money from them for several years, and it's been $8,000 the last few. Federal government has given us $6,300 last year for hiring summer students. And then Clean Farms, so for our recycling of the grain bags, we got $264 from them. Good. Used to be STEP, it's a different setup now, but same idea. Well, STEP was provincial, I think, wasn't it? Maybe? Federal, it was? Okay. Okay, so our goal to enforce the Weed Control Act. So we had 8 seasonal staff and 2 full-time staff appointed as weed inspectors. We inspected 1 permanent seed cleaning plant. We inspected 3 mobile seed cleaning plants. We inspected and destroyed prohibited noxious weeds at 167 known sites and 22 new sites. Sites are considered as quarter sections with weeds. We inspected and controlled noxious weeds at 219 sites and 66 new sites. Many hours were spent hand digging, hand pulling and digging certain regulated weeds, such as baby's breath. Weed inspectors mapped all locations of prohibited noxious weeds found. Mapping enables staff to evaluate the success of control efforts more effectively. Biocontrol beetle releases were on 15 sites of leafy spurge. 819 kilometers or 983 hectares of county ditch were inspected, and 61 hectares required weed control. And we sprayed 31 hectares of provincial highways last year. And then there's a map. So this is kind of what we map. So this would be spray data. There's a lot of other areas that we hand picked and dug weeds that, of course, aren't mapped on there. So it's kind of tricky to see, but all the purple is mainly Canada Thistle Control. So that's a program where the county is broke into 3 sections. So 1 section is sprayed each year for 3 years kind of thing. Just because we have so much, we can't do it all in 1 year. And then, yeah, the green is another one that really stands out. So that's field bindweed. That's getting very troublesome, and we're finding that in a lot of places now. So those are 2 huge programs, I guess. Okay, and then the cost-benefit analysis for the weed control. So for prohibited noxious weeds, which are all the knapweed, so Russian spotted and diffuse knapweed, nodding thistle, and scentless chamomile. These are all legislated through the Weed Control Act. These mainly occur on private land, some in county ditches, and there has been no charge for this service in the last number of years, maybe forever, I'm not sure, the history too far. So last year we spent approximately $40,000 on that program, which benefited 53 landowners on 111 quarter sections of land. So, you know, there's a lot of good that we have done there. And the idea kind of behind no fees for that is that we want landowners to work with us as opposed to ignoring situations and letting invasive weeds go. So examples of that can be all the knapweed in the gravel pits that are being, you know, potentially spread throughout the county and other districts. And of course, animals and wind can also spread those seeds. So noxious weed control is baby's breath, field bindweed, leafy spurge, downy brome, hoary crest, toadflax, hound's tongue, and many more others that we don't even have time to get to. Those are also legislated through the Weed Control Act. We find those mainly on county land, so mostly this is what we deal with in our ditches. Several years ago for private weed control, when we had time for that, we would charge accordingly as per the master rates bylaw. And there just hasn't been much time for that in recent years because we're busy dealing with ditches and that sort of thing. So we spent about $48,000 on that. And the rates then I included too for 2021, and it's $30 an hour to hand pick and $40 an hour to spray. And then with all the ditches that we sprayed for Volker, Alberta Transportation was invoiced for approximately $22,000. And then we're finding that spot spraying isn't effective. It's not doing what we need it to, so everything's growing beyond the sprayed areas. So we're going to have to kind of reevaluate that a little bit and start blanket spraying in some areas.
I don't know if this might be a good time, just with Alberta Transportation invoice and with the price of fuel going up, our master rate bylaw won't be adequate anymore. Just something to think about until we get to it, but maybe we should be looking at a fuel surcharge to it to make up, the fuel costs. Because I know there's other companies doing it right now, like even the waste for my garbage bin. There's a fuel surcharge on the bill now, I noticed.
It might be something to look at, just to add to the master rates bylaw in total on anything where we provide services.
Because with the gas
Delivery and stuff.
Yep.
spiking, it's something to think about.
Yeah. Okay. So here's just some pictures, just to change it up a little bit for you. So both are baby's breath. The one on the left there is what they deal with when they're digging. So when it's nice and moist out, then you can get a good chunk of the root. So there was a lot of digging this year. So we are really hopeful that the ditch is over, by pipeline, like on Township 150 and that old highway over there, Old Trans-Canada Highway, I think it's called. We're going to hopefully see some really good results, from all this effort. So, and then, so if we're, and with baby's breath, you can often see it until it's flowering, and then it's too late, so there's no point spraying it at that point. So anyway, that's just kind of how it is. You recognized it? It is. It is. Yeah. 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 Okay. So cutleaf vipergrass, on June 25th, 2020, the Alberta Biodiversity Monitoring Institute from Edmonton made us aware of the new to Canada species. It's invasive in the United States, and it's called cutleaf vipergrass. So last year we inspected this site 4 times during the summer and didn't find anything. So cross our fingers that that's kind of taken care of, but we'll continue to monitor this for a bit just to see. Well, yeah, and it's just so small here. Like I've seen, it's little, it's tiny, and we've never actually seen one blooming, I don't think. It's just the seed heads, and it's very similar to goat's beard, other than it's very, very small. So, but same thing, it supposedly blooms kind of in the morning when the sun's coming up or whatever, and that sort of thing, so. So still no idea where it came from and if we should be inspecting creeks in the area or something in case it came down that, but anyway. It's south of the hills, south, almost on the Saskatchewan border, like in the middle of nowhere, other than there's a creek sort of in the area, but pardon.
Blame the sage grouse.
No. Oh, boy. Okay. So our goal to enforce the Agricultural Pests Act, we had 8 seasonal staff and 2 full-time staff appointed as pest inspectors. We inspected 2 canola fields for club root, blackleg, and sclerotinia, and there was none identified. 10 wheat fields were inspected for Fusarium. 1% of kernels in one field had traces of Fusarium graminearum. 109 sites were inspected for grasshoppers. We inspected 220 sites in range 1 of the rat control zone twice for Norway rats, and there were no signs of rats found. We participated in the provincial Dutch elm disease survey, so 7 traps there. The diamondback moth survey, we have 4 traps set up yearly for that too, and the Bertha armyworm survey, which is also 4 traps.
Did you
And
find any of them?
there's always a few, but nothing major here. So, was there a...
Just because they were on my field, so I'm curious.
Yeah, very few.
Yeah.
Like, 1 or 2 kind of thing is all type thing, so there might have been a report sent on that I could probably find. But 11 skunk samples were sent away for rabies testing, and 35 egg producers purchased strychnine for gopher control before our stock was sold out. No, we were sold out last spring already, so. And now municipalities can't sell it anyway if they had any left, technically, so March 4th was the deadline for sales. So I included this because I know it's come up in council a bit and stuff. So wild boar in Alberta, they are a species under the Agricultural Pest Act too. There's a map here, Acadia Valley, the MD of Acadia, I guess, sorry, is red because they had a scare, I guess, maybe 6 or 7 years ago type thing. 1 wild boar was spotted and never seen again, so I don't know why they don't take it off, but anyway, there's sounders in Saskatchewan kind of up that way, so they're getting closer all the time, but...
Read an article from the city of Edmonton stating how they're going to have a large wild boar program or problem if they don't start dealing with it right away here
Yeah,
within the city limits. So
that'll be terrible.
go there. It'll be funny. I think around Parliament, actually. The feral pigs of the NDP party, right? Someone had to say it.
Okay. So Squeal on Pigs is a campaign. Is a campaign that's been brought to Alberta now through the Alberta Invasive Species Council. It's also a national campaign just to bring awareness to the problem. And then there's a little video here, if it'll work. Yeah. Rabbits too. Yeah. It is crazy. Yeah, It's in Saskatchewan. I don't have an exact location, but it is in Saskatchewan, so. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm guessing there was probably a couple sounders altogether there. I don't think they're usually that big. I don't know for sure, maybe 20 to 30 kind of normally, but.
We silage a lot of corn in the year, and we haven't seen any pigs yet, but the amount of like large cats that come flying out of cornfields around here is absolutely amazing. So in the last 3 years, I think we've chased out 10, 12 cougars
Really?
that have been in cornfields. Yeah. Then really makes you worry a little bit about wandering through a cornfield.
No kidding, holy cow. Wow, okay, that's. Yeah. Okay, so to enforce the Soil Conservation Act, we've got one soil conservation officer. No serious soil erosion issues were identified. 14-foot seed drills, the hay busters, are rented to 40 producers, and they seeded 2,116 acres, and 14 producers rented the land rollers and rolled 1,083 acres.
2,000 acres is a lot of ground for a 14-foot drill. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was a good year, for sure. Enforcing the Animal Health Act, there were no reportable animal health issues identified. Enforcing the Agricultural Service Board Act, so to present a summary of its activities for the preceding year to council, which is this one right now. And this legislation can be utilized in extreme cases when land is so infested with weeds or pests that it needs to be taken under supervision or restoration by the municipality, or the municipality may issue an order of reclamation. No land requiring such drastic measures were identified this year. So our goal to provide ratepayers with cost-effective specialty equipment and services that are not commercially or readily available. We've got the RFID tag reader. It was rented to one producer, and they read 147 head of cattle. That is $50 a day to rent. The tree planters were utilized by 7 residents. There's no charge for those. The mulch applicator was used by 2 residents. There's no charge for that. 2 4-H clubs utilize the cattle scale. There's no charge for 4-H clubs to use it. For anybody else, it's $30 plus 10 cents a head. The pipeline plow was not used. There was interest, but it wouldn't work for one person, just with what he wanted to use on it kind of thing. And the interest from the next person, there was damage to it already. It maybe has been there for a while. It was a big crack that needed welding and stuff, so that was repaired. And that cost just over $1,000, and to rent that unit, it's $50 a day. Usually that goes out once or twice in a year, but the foam applicator for gopher control was not used either last year. That's $50 a day to rent. The skunk traps were used by 5 residents, and that is $20 per month. The Magpie was just built last year and not used, and that was $20 a month. 60 grain bags were rolled with the grain bag roller at the Hilda transfer site. 15 bags of twine was collected at the transfer sites for recycling, and then again 40 producers rented the drills and 15 rented the land rollers, or 14. So this is a cost-benefit analysis for the ag rental equipment. So the seed drills, again, had the 40 renters. It was charged at $11.50 an acre, and the minimum charge was $275. The revenue was $25,633. The transport fee we broke out, and that was $2,850 on 18 rentals. So not all of them, because it was brought in later in the season. Expenses on the drills was $9,775.70, and net income was $18,707.30. The land rollers, so the old 15-foot land roller, had 10 renters using it. It was set at $2.50 an acre with a minimum charge of $200. The revenue on that one was $2,437.50. Transport fee was $276 that we collected. Expenses on that was just over $1,000, and the net income was $1,705.76. The new land roller, which was in service in May, middle of May, I believe, end of May. There was 4 renters who used that. That rate was $4 per acre, and the minimum charge was $250. Revenue on that one was just over $1,000. Transport fees were $222. Expenses on that were high because it needed a significant repair, so $5,405. And so we didn't make any money on that.
So what caused such a breakage on it that it needed such an expensive repair?
We're not really sure, but the manufacturer believes that somebody tried to move it with it full of water. So
Like on the transport?
it was bent, yeah.
No. Yeah, you can't move them like that.
No. So we lost almost $4,000 there, and both of them together then $3,447, and the transport was $498 on 5 rentals, and expenses were $6,413, and so the net income was in the whole $2,000 there. So. And the grain bag roller, so this has been a free service to our producers. Our ag staff used it for approximately 1 week in the spring to roll 60 bags that were left or dropped at the Hilda transfer site over winter. It cost about $7,500 in wages and equipment to use it for that week. Policy was updated so producers can use it without staff's assistance now, and the rental fee was added for out-of-county users to want to, take it and use it as well. So $265 compensation was received from Clean Farms under the pilot project. Okay, so the goal to develop and deliver programs to increase awareness, understanding, and implementation of sound environmental agricultural practices that improve local watersheds. Our staff participate in projects, meetings, and workshops with the Milk River Watershed Council and CWA. We advertise events being put on for the public for them. We assisted the Milk River Watershed Council with the producers leading the waste survey that they were putting out, and due to COVID-19, most of their events were canceled or virtual or something, so there wasn't a whole bunch of that kind of stuff. Providing ratepayers with relevant and modern information. We hosted the soil health webinar in January. We hosted the Working Well virtual workshop in November. We awarded 2 local students a bursary to pursue studies in agriculture. We sponsored the Farm Safety Center, who virtually trained 302 students in the county on farm safety. We supported the local 4-H district and the beef pen show as well. Support environmental farm planning and Canadian Agricultural Partnership Program. So we assist producers in the process of completing their EFPs. 1 EFP was completed and approved. We advertise the CAP program in the ASB newsletter. We generally act as a point of contact for anyone looking for information. And I reached out to some of these programs to see if they would tell me how many of our producers were approved for anything. And 2 grants were approved under the Farm Technology Program, and 25 producers were approved for funding under the Water Program. So I was kind of surprised by that. I was happy to hear, that there was a fair bit of funding that went to our producers.
Lisa, do you know what they got for the water program?
No, they wouldn't tell me just the number, so. Okay. And the Ag Plastic Recycling Pilot Program. The Hilda Transfer Site is the official Clean Farms grain bag and twine recycling site in the county. Seasonal staff rolled 60 bags at the Hilda Transfer Site. 4.81 metric tons were sent for recycling. Clean Farms pays us $55 per metric ton compensation under the pilot program, so $265 were received, and then the $7,500 expense. The twine bags are available at each transfer site and at the Cypress County office for producers interested in collecting and recycling their twine. Full bags can be dropped off at all the transfer sites, and 15 bags were collected then. So there was a bit more engagement with that too, I think, than I expected. So it was kind of nice to see that. Oh, yeah. So is there anything that I'm missing that I need to put in that you guys think, or anything like that, or? Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
I think, I think it was well put together. And my comment ties into the next agenda item, but I know depending upon where this report as well as the next agenda item fall on our council agenda package that's coming forward on March 22nd, I think it's fair to say that some of the cost analysis will probably be up for debate amongst council as a whole. So for our non-elected Ag Service Board members, just as a kind of for information purposes, we can anticipate that there will be some discussion on fees and charges and rates that the Ag Service Board members will have to have with the rest of council. So.
Yeah. I would agree, and it seemed like the new Land Rover, it wasn't in service early enough to be a fair comparison on its value this year anyways, so. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead, Shane.
Well, and I did read farther down, I think I'm ahead of myself on this master late.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm on the master rate one, sorry.
So you're gonna move this for information and then we'll go on to that?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay,
On
go
those,
ahead, Josh.
on those damages on the land roller, if that happens, then the producer who rented it should be responsible, correct? So does that go back to the inspection process when we pick it up, or what happens?
Yeah, well, all of that was kind of coming in afterwards, so like we've got an inspection sheet and stuff now, and all that kind of stuff, and a deposit deposit on that too now? I can't remember what it said on that.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
You know, and I guess that's kind of goes back to the whole discussion or debate or whatever position or wherever you land on the subject is, the idea of having staff pick up and deliver the equipment, because, if it's left to, that's the type of thing that gets discovered, right? That there are, whether it's whatever repairs or whatever that's needed, right? And the idea here of this rental equipment is, if I'm renting it, I'm hoping that it's serviceable, that it's actually reliable, dependable, and it can be used for the purpose that I'm needing it for, because I've booked it and I've kind of, putting all your eggs in one basket to be able to that it performs to the way it's expected to. However, if the equipment isn't being delivered by staff, and it's left up to the ratepayers to, come and get it or transport it to their neighbor or pick it up from their neighbor, then it becomes difficult to determine who actually did create the issue which is resulting now in repairs, right? And then to your point, to try and go back and determine who should be responsible becomes very much more difficult, right? It becomes gray because they'll say, well, maybe they didn't pay attention, or they'll say, well, it might have been me, but it might have been before I even got it. I don't know, right? So it becomes harder to pinpoint who should take responsibility for having to be accountable for the repair if that's the way you want to go. So, just food for thought, I guess, is, and I don't know what the right or wrong answer in that is, whether it's staff should be delivering it, or if we should be, allowing ratepayers to transport it themselves, right? So.
And part of that repair too, so they fixed the initial problem and then it was also beefed up, so it hopefully will not ever happen again. So, it's all still charged to that and everything, but there was a little extra done to it, so it will hopefully stand up.
But if it's abused, you're not, right on there, do not move when it's full because I
Yeah.
used it.
And do we have stickers? We were talking about, there already is, okay.
There was already,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so this I just kind of threw in here. This is kind of what we had been working on to go to council. We put it in just so, I guess, kind of Josh and Connie had an idea what was happening and stuff. So it's just kind of for your information. So basically, finance is kind of suggesting that everything stays as it's been approved at the last, the master rates bylaw has gone through, simply because with the new land roller, which we don't have enough data. That's the problem kind of with that one. It hasn't been in service for a full year and all that kind of stuff. So to have a more accurate representation of the demand for that and, the income that it's going to bring kind of thing, then he's kind of suggesting that we leave everything as is so we can get a better gauge on that.
well, I disagree with finance. Finance at times would love to bulldoze every small hamlet we got in there because it doesn't create enough revenue according to finance. So, me and finance at times don't see eye to eye. Couple things, looking at, the biggest issue we've had here now lately is when we upped the delivery fee, to $3 a kilometer. And that, if people are canceling, if you look down at all these other people, they got, some of them just even $300 a day, $11 an acre, which we're close to County and Newell, but they don't have no delivery charge. Cardston, I gave you that magazine where they charge $10 an acre plus $150 delivery. They're getting some back for delivery, but if you live in far parts, Hilda, Jenner area to rent it, the no-till drill, pretty expensive delivery charge. So people are going to say, the hell with it. But that's not our purpose. We want them to use it to stop soil erosion so they don't go in there ripping up the sloughs and stuff. It's something to look at. And then even this comment that whoever wrote it, that the two land rollers are very similar. Well, they're not, because the one has the blade on for knocking down the gopher holes and badger holes, which is, with the more and more gophers, it's becoming a big issue. So they're not familiar. They're sure they roll, but the one has the blade on, which makes it unique.
For sure.
And so I think, my own opinion is that we gotta reduce that $3 a kilometer delivery charge.
What rattles me the most is the Ag Service Board brought in that we should be charging something to deliver. We took it to council saying we want to add a delivery fee to it because we figured it needed to happen. And then it doubled from what we originally wanted to put on it. If we wouldn't have brought it forward, it wouldn't have had anything on it. And that bugs me the most about it. So I think it's got to be put on there at a flat rate, or it's got to be capped. Because otherwise you're not going to get these rural producers to use it, and we're eliminating the purpose of doing what we're doing. We're not in it to make money. The idea behind this is not to make money. It's to stop land erosion, is the idea behind these drills. The idea behind the rollers is for dealing with your pest problems, essentially. So, Josh, then Jeffrey.
I'd like to see the fee built into the rate per acre rate. I just did some math based on last year's acres. If we had 50 cents, that's $1,000. You know, up to $1 is $2,000. If we would have had that built in to cover some of the transportation costs, plus Braden out there inspecting after every use, we could have maybe passed a $4,000 repair bill onto somebody else. So I'd like to see it built in, even if it's $1. People aren't going to complain about $1 an acre versus $3 a kilometer. I don't think. Plus, Braden's there to inspect after every use.
Yeah.
And if we're not trying to make money, you know,
Well, and another thing we should look at there too is if a drill's out in Hilda, how we have it set up that they always charge from the office. If he's only moving it 5 miles, we're charging both ways for it still. We shouldn't be doing that. We should be charging one way.
But I agree with Josh though. Even if we upped it, because even if you look here, Newell's at 11. You look at Warner's at 15. Starland's at 15. It's MD at Tabor. Oh, they're at $125 a day. Wow, gotta go there. But like Josh said, $1. If we up it $1 an acre, nobody's gonna really complain, and it's gonna cover some of our costs.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Okay, so I'll try to be succinct here. I have 3 points, I guess. First point is, from the strategic planning that council went through last week, of course, the idea was trying to recover or gain cost recovery. So the question then is, do you want full cost recovery or do you want a portion of cost recovery? So that's one question that has to be answered. Second thing is that, I think when you look at the rental, if the fees are all absorbed into a cost per acre, then it's much simpler. There's a little bit there's going to be some give and take. So, for what you might have spent maybe a little bit more in expenses for this particular user or delivery, you make up for somebody else, right? And it's sort of over time, it will balance itself to whatever level of cost recovery or whatever level of profit or expense you're trying to gain. My third point is that in the report here, there is a comment in here near the end of the report, right above where all the other municipalities' information is, and it says, all rental equipment brought in a net of over $10,000 in 2021, excluding any delivery fees that were added in. So I guess the question then too begs is, do we want to look at each piece of equipment on its own separately and what its costs and what its revenues are? Or if you combine all the rental equipment into one thing, overall, are we gaining revenue from the rental equipment? Again, meaning that, okay, yeah, maybe this piece of equipment we're not getting as much revenue in terms of that piece of equipment, but we're making up for it in other areas. So again, that's another question that maybe has to be answered is, do you want to look at it as rental equipment as a whole or on an piece by piece individually in terms of, how you approach it? So those are my comments.
I go back to my comment that we're not in this to make money. if we were in the rental game to make money, we would do it differently. But that's not the idea behind it, in my mind. Go ahead first, Braden.
So with that net of over $10,000, I'm not 100% sure if they've taken the capital cost of each unit out of that. Just some of the paperwork we were given for numbers, it said net income, but I don't know if the capital replacement cost was taken out of that, so that might not be 100% accurate. I kind of was looking at it more this morning, so I kind of seen that this morning, so.
Josh?
What's the cost recovery timeline? How many years are they trying to spread it over for cost recovery?
5.
Okay. The other thing, like Jeffrey said, I think we combine all rental equipment as one entity, because if we were looking at each individual thing, if you were a business, you'd be getting rid of the equipment that isn't used, or that's only used once in a while. So if we look at it as a whole, then yes, the drills make more money this year, well maybe the land rollers will make more money next year as an entity. I think you look at them individually to see what, if this piece of equipment's costing us more money, but we group them all together in the end.
Yeah, it's the same thing as looking at the two seed drills apart from each other. One cost recovers at $6. One was at whatever it was, more than that. How do you at 10? How do you compare that? One got used more than the other did more acres, obviously. And even if there were some repairs, well, it is what it is. And the new one got used more than the old one did. Maybe Braden liked pulling that one more. It's Go ahead, Blaine.
I agree with just having it built in and having just a one fee, but is there any chance, or is it too complicated to do like a bit of a cost breakup? I know we have that, the minimum fee or whatever, but maybe we'll get more use out of it if, say, somebody wants to rent it for 500 acres and they get it for this cost. Or what is the average kind of acres? Is it all over the place, or is it, 100 acres or?
I want to say the average was 50 acres per person, but or was it 75? I know the average distance was 50 kilometers away from the office. Actually, I can just do the math quick.
And I did 38. So we balance each other out.
Place.
But that's the thing too, if you do 30 and you do 100, you're not gonna go buy one of these and you're not gonna buy one of these. So even if we up the rate $1 an acre, guys aren't gonna go buy them and say, we're not gonna use it.
Well, exactly. I use it to seed grass because I don't have anything set up to seed grass with, and it works quite well for that. That's where, Jeffrey, go ahead.
Yeah, while Braden's looking that up, I guess, the only other thing I'll mention is that, so this won't entirely be the complete RFD that council will see, but the point of this is that Elisa and her staff wanted to make sure that that the Ag Service Board was familiar with the RFD and the concepts and the principles in general of what's being presented to council in advance, so that it wasn't a surprise or that you weren't prepared. The one thing that still has to be added to this RFD is that it has been circulated to corporate services to add some other comments from things like asset management for future asset replacement costs of what would need to be factored in to replace this equipment, say 10 or 15 years from now, and some of those types of things. So there will be a little bit more information that'll be inserted when it actually does arrive on in the council agenda package from corporate services.
I mean, if we're making $10,000 a year, I think we're quite on par to replace this equipment.
That might not be quite accurate though, because he was looking at that this morning, so that number might not be reflecting the capital equipment fees coming out of that. So we have to double check and get back, with that number for sure for council. And then another thing, sorry, am I interrupting anybody? Like Shane was saying, like that bar, like maybe that'll be a seller this year, you know, like it's hard to know with the minimal use that we've, you know, had it out last year, so.
Well, not too many people knew that we had it.
No.
You know, that roller with the big blade in front to knock.
Yeah,
When
I've
people
used it
know
on
we
a
got
1,000
it,
acres, I think, if I'd have known it was even here.
you know,
yeah.
that's what I mean. How many people are gonna use it because we can't get rid of the gophers and more holes, they'll run over it. I mean, my dad, we had one back in the 70s, a roller with a blade on. And we did our hay fields every year.
So what's the direction that we want to go here? Are we taking something to, are you guys taking something like a recommendation to council, or is it going?
I think, well, that's, you direct us what you want us to do. And we'll bring it up at council.
Well, I agree with Josh.
So 2 for up in the rate, Shane? Yeah? Wayne?
Yeah, I'd be up to rate and get rid of the delivery fee, because that way I think people would be more comfortable. Oh, geez, you know, we're getting something for nothing. We can still do the delivery, but it'll be hidden.
So even if we up to $2 on 100 acres, that's only an extra $200. Really. And according to my math,
I think on the drills, you'd probably up it $1.50 to $2, and then the rollers, you do it probably 50 cents.
yeah,
Because you're always gonna cover more ground with the rollers than you are with the drills.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You think that high on the drills? You don't think $1 is?
I'll do the math before the council meeting, so I know where it's at.
We'll leave it in your capable hands.
Well, I'm just going,
But not only that, but think about I go back to this $4,000 repair that we could have got rid of.
Yeah.
Too, I mean, right there, that pays for a lot of the transportation fee anyway. Just having Braden inspect them and going through them with the producer before they use them and, yeah.
Also something that we're kind of thinking too, we might try and have one of the summer staff move, like maybe the land rollers, because they don't make as much money as Braden would and that sort of thing. That would cut costs a little bit. You know, just,
So you're saying Braden's overpaid?
no, not at all. No, but, you know, it's little things like that that we keep hearing about and could make a bit of a difference, I guess.
I don't know if you want to go, like $2 seems like a big jump to me, but I could be wrong.
Okay, Jeffrey?
Yeah, and I know I've said this already just a few minutes ago, but I think, again, one of the biggest questions that council as a whole needs to answer themselves is, how do we want to approach, do we want to approach each piece of equipment on an individual basis, or do you want to look at the rental equipment in general and making sure that you're, you know, getting whatever value you need out of that as a whole for all rental equipment, knowing that certain things are going to be up and down and certain things are going to help pay for other units, right? But I think that's an important question that has to be answered, because that'll help solve a lot of these issues. And maybe I'm overlooking something or maybe simplifying it too much, but I just kind of have a feeling that might get everybody going in the right direction as to what the solution of this is.
There's no such thing as simplifying something too much.
No.
I think as an ag department, you look at each individual piece to see what's being utilized and what the costs are and, you know, that kind of stuff. And I'm sure corporate services is gonna look at that for, replacement.
Yeah.
But as a whole, I think we keep it all as one rental group within the ag department, if that's how it is.
I would agree. Okay, so I think we got the direction to take when it comes to council, and, like I said, once we get the final numbers, I'll do the math and see what the rate's gotta be. Okay, so Blaine's gonna move to, that we take that information to council. All in favor? Carried. Anything in the items for information that we need to talk about, Lisa?
So just that same weed inspection data map there. There's this report from AFRED about all the summary for all our inspections and that sort of thing. You can read through that if it interests you. There's a couple more, well, one more letter about fertilizer emissions, and then ours as well, the one that I sent, and then just kind of a response, not even a response, but just kind of an acknowledgement of the email and letter from Glenn Watts' office there. And then the last bit is, so we call this the weed mapper that we get, and this is all, well, the weeds that are on the act and where they are and how problematic they are throughout the province. They're all broke down into each individual species, and it's just a really good information package, I think, that they've sent out here. So every year we go through and we can make our adjustments, and you know, if we've found something new, then we can add that in, and I think it goes by township. So when we see certain things, you can tell that it's in the city when it's those four. Yeah, that purple one up there, whatever that was. And along the river, you can tell that's along the river because that's all flowering rush, yeah, so. I don't know, it just gives a good visual representation of what's out there. The Canada thistle map is really interesting. The whole province is covered. Yeah, there. So, anyway.
It's crazy what they can put together now, like for the whole province, just like that.
It is. Yeah, so
Just
anyway.
off topic, do you have much noxious weed problems around the park?
Yeah, and there's more things in the park that we don't even deal with. Like I feel like there's
Scentless chamomile everywhere in there.
yeah, and there's oxeye daisy everywhere, and yeah, there's what's that, hawkweed? I think is that it? Hawkweed, orange? Yeah, a hawkweed in there too, I think, and different things that we haven't had to really deal with in the county. And it might have been a couple of years ago I was talking to Cam Lockerbie that kind of works out there, and he was going to tour me around and show me some of that stuff. So we haven't done that yet, and I'm probably scared to see what's all out there.
They don't have to manage that ground the same as the county, like they're not under the same act?
Well, they do. Like, I know there's been letters sent to some cabin owners and stuff out there, specifying, like, you've got oxeye daisy, you need to clean this up, or you're going to get a weed notice from the county, kind of is what it says. So I haven't had to deal with them much, so I don't know the whole process of how we work with them, to figure all that out. But yeah, they are legislated to,
Do something.
yeah. No, not that I know of. Oh, yeah. Yeah. What's that?
Yeah.
What's that, Connie?
The really poisonous
Giant
one?
hogweed?
That's edible.
No, it's a hemlock.
Oh, I'm not sure. We don't have it, so.
Yeah, it was, yeah, we found lots,
Yeah,
like one root will kill a calf.
okay. Yeah, there's getting to be lots of bizarre things out there, and, like that giant hogweed or whatever I think it's called, and it creates huge blisters on your skin, and it's crazy, yeah, so.
I blame the Russians.
I heard Blaine say something about dandelions. It's 'cause
Yeah.
There's so many, we would never ever get them under control.
Okay,
Yeah,
anything
so-
else to come before the meeting? Connie? So
In the
hearing
80s?
nothing else, I guess I'll adjourn the meeting.
Oh, I got something,
I'll let
I got
you- Oh, go ahead.
Braden, did you get any more information from the native thing that Blaine had brought up last week?
Well, Lisa kind of reached out to them, but basically all they said was contact Multisar, which they deal with species at risk mostly, and pretty much all that we could do would be education, unless there's a or not invasive species at risk on the land. There's not much that's doable. I believe, right, Lisa? That's kind of what they were getting at.
That land that we were talking about, that's mostly tame back there, is it not?
Yeah, it is actually, yeah.
That's what I thought, yeah, down in that valley.
It's more like on top of the hill to the west, yeah.
Yeah, that's basically what they said. I haven't looked beyond Multisar or anything yet, but
I was just wondering if their end game was more of protection of the native prairie, but it doesn't sound like that's what their goal is.
well, go ahead.
That is their goal. It's just there's not much legislation or anything that can require them to do anything about it, right? Like they do want to protect the grasslands because it is very important, right? So, but there's not much they can do, really.
Sounds like somebody needs to formulate a plan.
And we'll, we can look into it a bit more yet and that sort of thing too, and just see, but.
Okay.
Anything else, guys? Well, I'm not hearing anything else.
Is there a map of that on there? Oh, okay.
It is,
It's just
I know it's not on the app, but it is poisonous for sure. I've looked into it, but yeah, it is, but it's just not regulated. Yeah, I'm surprised it hasn't been found.
it could be, yeah. Yeah.